I'm Glenn Caballo. I live in a small Scandinavian town, and when this story began, I had a good job as an industrial engineer in the local branch of a large international company. I met Caroline Stillman at a friend's wedding. Nothing happened there, but I took her phone number, and she took mine. To my great surprise, she called me a week later and invited me to dinner with her. I agreed and went with a bottle of wine and a big red rose. Her apartment was fine, her cooking was excellent, and we had a very good time. In fact, we had such a good time together in bed that I even had breakfast in the morning before going home. Of course, I was happy that I met such a sexy girl, and I continued to date her and have great sex. After a few more dates, Caroline told me that she was in love with me and demanded that I be honest and tell her how I felt about her. I looked her straight in the eye and told her the truth. I was in love with her too. Just 4 months later, we agreed to live together in my house, a house that I was able to buy thanks to some money I won in the lottery. After we moved in together, Caroline suggested we have a grand wedding on the 10th anniversary of our first date. I was fine with that. I even agreed to her demands for separate bank accounts and allowed her to print out very detailed terms and conditions about who should pay for what. Although it seemed a little strange, I accepted her proposal mainly because it ensured that my home would be protected as private property if we went our separate ways. Several little warning bells rang immediately after she moved into my house. I was an ordinary guy, not an experienced Casanova, and so I had some doubts. I was concerned that if a guy like me could sleep with her after the first date, what could a real experienced womanizer do? Is this especially true if he met her at his natural hunting grounds, such as conferences, office parties, or bachelorette parties? There were no red flags, and the warning bells soon dropped because Caroline and I were on good terms. In fact, it was much better than many of our friends. Caroline and I promised to keep our family out of trouble, and after every divorce we saw among our friends, we even grew closer. Caroline became pregnant, and our daughter Alice was born. However, no one is 100% perfect, and we were faced with our first major marital problem after 8 years and 7 months of marriage. As in many other relationships, it was economic issues that put Caroline and me on the warpath. Our problems began when the company I worked for moved all of its production and most of its local administration to Portugal. My job, and over 600 other jobs, were lost forever in our city. Of course, in a small Scandinavian town like ours, it was impossible to find so many new jobs in a short time. For the first 3 months being unemployed, I received a salary from the company as usual. But after that, it became difficult for me because now I only had my limited savings and small monthly payments from my unemployment insurance. These were difficult times, but I persevered. Caroline paid her expenses exactly in accordance with our agreement and, to my surprise, did not offer or show any intention of helping me by taking on an increased share of our family expenses. Then one terrible month, the shit hit the fan. We encountered several unexpected problems. Expensive service for my car, refrigerator, and dishwasher broke and had to be replaced, plus a high bill from my dentist. Then, worst of all, Caroline and I agreed to go to an expensive show one weekend in our capital with Melanie and Tom, Caroline's old friends. Without speaking to me, Tom bought tickets, express train tickets, and booked rooms in a 5-star hotel for the 4 of us. I knew for sure that my reserves had dropped to 0, and even a small loan would be needed to pay all my bills. I had no interest in using any credit to go to a 5-star hotel and a damn show. I also didn't want to use any of my last reserve shares of a profitable company that I intended to save for more important things if my house had real problems. So I had no choice and I couldn't afford to go to this show. I told Caroline that I couldn't afford this trip and we should skip it. She flew into a rage and shouted, "No way in the world! It's not my problem if you can't afford to go and have to stay home, but I want to see this show, and I'm going with Melanie and Tom, that's for sure." I expected Caroline to offer me some economic help in solving my problem during this trip, but since she made no attempt, I decided to swallow my pride and ask her, "You know how much I'll have to pay this month for all these unexpected expenses, but if you really want me to go to the show with you, Could you please pay my share of the trip, and I'll pay you the same trip? When will I find a job again? I asked her. Her cold answer really surprised me. I expected you to get mad, so I already talked to Tom, and he promised to sell your ticket to someone else. So you go to the show without me, instead of staying home with me or taking care to help me when I have temporary economic problems. We've turned into a very cute couple, haven't we? Tom says you still have until tomorrow to find the money. I'm sure you can fix this somehow if you really want to come with me, Caroline said in a cold voice. Okay, I realize that you don't care about me. I will accept this as your final decision that you and I will not do anything else together. It's time to solve our damn problems once and for all. I said, rushed to my car and drove away. She ran after me, shouting something I couldn't hear. Some distance from my house, I parked my car and tried to calm down and think about the situation. Caroline and I had been together for just over 9 years, had a child together, and were planning to get married in a big wedding on our 10th anniversary. Caroline and I were fine as long as I had a good-paying job and a good life. Probably not a good enough life because my savings should have been much higher to help get me through unexpected hard times like now. What struck me most was that now that I had some temporary economic problems, it was obvious that in Caroline's opinion, I wasn't worth a damn. No doubt she now considered me just a poor bastard who could cause her economic problems. Even her interest in our sex life has suffered from the current situation. It only took me a few minutes to decide what I should do to solve Caroline's and my problems. I went to visit Melanie and Tom. They seemed a little surprised to see me, so after polite small talk, I immediately said to Tom, I can't afford to pay for the tickets, and Caroline refuses to help me do it, so I'm coming to you about this weekend trip. I'm going to skip the weekend trip and ditch the greedy bitch that lives in my house. However, she will go with you, but without me. By the way, she even told me that you had already found some stallions for her as a replacement for me. Who is he? Melanie said, Caroline has a lot of money and I can't understand why she's doing this to you. I'm sorry we can't help you in this matter because we have a lot of unexpected expenses after moving into this new home. Tom's old friend, Michael Gilman, has promised to buy your share and join us. I shouted, this damn fornicator is courting Caroline and will spend the night with her in a hotel room after dinner and a lot of wine. Caroline knows who will replace me? Yes, and she's fine, Tom said. Who suggested that lustful rat accompany Caroline? Isn't he married? That was my next question. He's a good guy with an unfair reputation. I met him by chance. He agreed to buy your ticket tomorrow if you didn't do it. And Caroline agreed. Tom explained. I lost my job, but not my pride. You can bet that my economic problem is only a temporary phenomenon. And I can promise you that our 9 years together with that now shameless slut Caroline will receive a final solution tonight. She can have her own damn big wedding, but it will be without me. Be sure of this. I told them in a loud voice and saw from their faces that they did not expect such a harsh reaction from me. Tom understood my anger and tried to calm me down by saying, No, it's not what you think. Michael and I will live in one room and the girls in another. That's the deal. You can take my word for it that nothing bad will happen to Caroline and Michael. Do you two really think I'm an idiot who would believe such damn nonsense? Do you really believe that an experienced woman hunter like Michael Gilman would miss such a great opportunity to fuck Caroline? She is angry with me because I have economic problems, and that is why she chooses to go there with him. But I can promise you that I don't give a fuck if my slut ex Caroline fucks him. I think it's time to call Michael's wife for a friendly chat. I said before, asking if they still had any cardboard boxes left after moving to their new house. Melanie said, Please calm down. It's not as bad as it seems. Tom and I can swear and promise you that Caroline won't do anything stupid. Why do you need boxes? Caroline will get out of my house. If I had agreed to this without throwing her out of my house, I would have been a real laughingstock among all my friends. Never, damn it, never. Can I leave her things in your garage while you're away? Otherwise, they will end up sitting on your lawn. Melanie loudly objected to my plans to kick Caroline out of my house, but Tom gave me 10 folded cardboard boxes and a spare key to their garage. I have a feeling he really enjoyed this situation. I knew Caroline had received a call about my plans as soon as I left Melanie and Tom, and I expected a furious Caroline to greet me at the door. Instead, I found her crying at the kitchen table. As soon as she saw me, she began to sob. I'm sorry, please forgive me for being stupid and selfish. I'm really ashamed of what I said before you left. Please forgive me. Of course I understand the problems, and of course we are a family that will fix everything together. I already told Melanie that we are going on this trip together and she doesn't have to worry about paying anything. Tom must have been stupid to offer your ticket to Michael, but please believe me that it was not my choice. Melanie and Tom didn't tell me who wanted to buy your ticket. Please believe me and forgive me. Tom told me a completely different story about that damn ticket. Feel free to go to your damn show with that gigolo as much as you want. But you must be an incredibly naive bitch if you think that after a few drinks, you can share a bed with one of the most successful bloodhounds of fallen women in our city for a whole night without being tempted by sex. Please spare me any more nonsense and lies, because I couldn't care less about what you do. Enough is enough. I've had enough of your crap and I can't take it anymore. Now she began to cry loudly, and after a while she sobbed, Please forgive me for everything I said and did. I love you, only you, and please come with me to this show, but if you don't come, I won't go. Hell no, I'm not going to this damn show or anywhere else with your damn so-called friends, and I don't care where you're going or what kind of lustful fornicator you're going with. You really wanted to humiliate me among all my friends and acquaintances by spending the night with Michael Gilman. As I told Melanie and Tom, I lost my job, but not my pride. Why the hell are you sharing a bed with me if you don't care about me or my feelings? Caroline missed the trip and stayed home with me, but it was a cold weekend, although she did her best to cheer me up. Later it came to my attention that Michael Gilman was bragging to his friends that his old friend Tom had set him up with a great married woman. They were planning to stay at a nice hotel during a weekend trip while his wife was at the spa. Afterwards, when his friends teased him about being a dreamer because the married woman didn't go and he went there with his brother instead, he got angry. It was rumored that Michael then promised his friends that he would have the last laugh and fuck this married woman another time instead. When I told Caroline about Michael's boasts and promises, she laughed and promised me that it wouldn't happen, at least not until the Sahara Desert turned into a swamp. After a while, I calmed down, but I still had serious doubts about Caroline's love. She really begged me to give her a second chance. To my surprise, she even without any argument accepted my condition that Melanie and Tom should never be invited to our home and, of course, not invited to our wedding or wedding reception. Less than a month after our argument about going on the show, I got a new well-paying job, and Caroline celebrated by taking me on a romantic weekend trip to Paris. For good reason, she paid for everything: airfare, hotel, and a great show at the Moulin Rouge. We had a good and very romantic time together with great sex. Caroline pretended to be French and did many of the things they are famous for. A really great trip, but I have a feeling that our relationship will never return to the level it was before the canceled weekend trip with Melanie and Tom. I was right about this, and a month later, Caroline gave me the next surprise. On Saturday morning, she told me that she and Melanie had agreed to go shopping in our country capital. It's about 80 kilometers from our city, and she needed our car for this trip. She would be without children. This surprised me, and I asked, "Why no children this time? You and Melanie always go shopping with the kids, and I'm sure Alice needs something." "Because Melanie will be buying Tom a birthday present, and we will be visiting a lot of fancy shops during a busy day. It will be too boring for children. Our car was actually my car because I paid for it, and I asked, why my car? Both Melanie and Tom have cars. Why should I pay Melanie's expenses for a gift for her fucking creepy husband? The man who did everything he could to set you up with his buddy Michael Gilman? Because Melanie's car broke down, and Tom has important things to do, and don't worry about gas, we'll pay for it," she said in an arrogant voice. She was better dressed than usual for her shopping trip, and even had a little more makeup on than usual. This, coupled with my shopping cart Melanie, gave me a strange feeling that something might be wrong. When Caroline went to the bathroom before leaving, I came up with an idea for a simple trick and turned off the ringtone on Caroline's cell phone. As I followed Caroline to the door, I noticed that she was wearing high heels. No sane woman would wear high heels during the day in an old city center with lots of cobblestones. I hugged her and said, "I have a strong feeling that what you are going to do today is really stupid and wrong. I can't stop you from going where you're going, but please don't jeopardize our wedding by meeting Michael Gilman today." She turned ashen and left without further comment. I checked Tom online and found out that his 38th birthday was 71 days early. This is hardly a reason for a big celebration with valuable gifts, I thought. Living in a small town has many advantages, but also some disadvantages. Even ordinary people can know a lot about each other, and there are even those whose main interest is to know a lot about friends and acquaintances. After a canceled weekend trip, I started using every available source to find out something about Melanie, Tom, and Michael. I knew that Michael Gilman had his driver's license suspended for 3 months for speeding. Then I even received some useful nasty gossip about Melanie, which I had no intention of spreading unless Tom and his wife tried to ruin my relationship with Caroline. About 20 minutes after Caroline left, I pretended I couldn't find Alice's favorite outfit that she wanted to wear to her birthday party later that day and called Melanie on her cell phone. She answered immediately. To my surprise, I heard her daughter and Tom arguing in the background for a few seconds, and it was obvious that she rushed into the other room and closed the door behind her. Now I realized that something was really wrong, and Melanie wasn't in the car because I couldn't hear Caroline's favorite music from the car stereo. It was obvious that Melanie and Caroline were not together. However, I pretended that everything was fine and said, "Caroline's cell phone doesn't seem to be working for some reason. Could you give her your phone for a few seconds because I have a very important matter to talk about?" Should I ask her? "I'm sorry, but we're at a gas station right now because Caroline had some stomach problems and needed to go to the ladies' room, but I'll tell her to call as soon as she gets back," Melanie told me in a slightly worried voice. No doubt Caroline was alone or with someone else, doing something I wasn't supposed to know, and Melanie was at home covering for her. But the switched-off cell phone created an unexpected problem for them. You didn't have to be some kind of Einstein to guess what Caroline was interested in. Betting on Michael Gilman would be a gamble with ironclad odds. What could Melanie do? Call Caroline without receiving an answer. If Caroline was with Michael and Melanie didn't know his number, it would take her some time to get his number from Tom and call Michael. Melanie did a good job because 8 minutes later, Caroline called me. After we established my reason for calling her, I said, "Please give the phone to Melanie, because I need to say a few important things about the gift to Tom." Caroline seemed worried now as she said, "She's in the ladies' room at the gas station. I'll have you call her back when she gets back." What the hell are you actually doing? Setting up camp at a damn gas station just outside of town? Are you not going shopping? Or do you have other plans? Caroline disconnected the call and Melanie called me 5 minutes later. I told her, "It's obvious that you and Caroline are not together. Where the hell is she? I bet you're at home and she's in some seedy hotel having sex with that damn fornicator Michael Gilman at this very moment. If you are together with her, please give her your phone for a few seconds. Otherwise, no doubt I'm right." Melanie's short answer was, "Go to hell. I didn't go there, but I called Tom." Melanie admitted that she is covering for Caroline, who is pretending to go shopping with her, but I bet Caroline is with Michael Gilman at this very moment. "It's high time you dropped all this nonsense and told me the whole truth." Tom replied, "Chill, dude. Why should I care what your unfaithful wife does?" "Because I really care about your fallen wife. Ask her why Anders Janten was bragging about fucking her 2 years ago during their trip to the Union Conference at that famous spa on the West Coast. Tom and I weren't friends and hadn't even spoken since I canceled my weekend trip. He tried to set Caroline up with his friend Michael and was currently involved in Caroline's affairs. In my opinion, he could not blame me for telling him the truth about his wife, although he refused to tell me the truth about my wife. 10 minutes later, An angry Melanie called me and accused me of ruining her happy marriage. I told her that the only thing I did was get even for helping Caroline cancel my planned wedding. If she had immediately told me about Caroline and Michael when I first called her, she would have remained a happy wife. Then she shouted, "Go to hell and take your damn slut and illegitimate child with you." This phrase hit me hard, really hard. I called Caroline's cell phone and she now answered the call. I asked her, "Melanie just called me and told me that Alice is an illegitimate child. This is true?" She must have been in shock because she screamed, "Why did she tell you that?" "I guess because you and Michael Gilman even ruined her marriage." "Why don't you ask her?" I called Michael Gilman's wife and got his cell phone number and information that he allegedly plays golf. I called the number provided, and when Michael answered, I told him, "Caroline Stillman's husband is looking for you with a shotgun." These two calls should calm the two lovebirds for a while. I found a private laboratory online and ordered a DNA test kit. Caroline returned home less than half an hour later and shouted to me, "Are you completely crazy? Threatening Michael Gilman with a shotgun and accusing Melanie and me of treason?" "Shotgun? What shotgun? I've never owned a shotgun. It was Tom who teased me about living with a cheating slut. He didn't care about our relationship when he accepted the fact that his own cheating wife supported you in your deception today. He had to pay, as some holy people say, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Don't blame me. I'm a victim in this damn shit." Michael Gilman's wife got very angry when I told her I knew about Caroline and her husband. She said Michael had several chances, and now it would be the end for him. Then our neighbor, Dan Olson, who is something of a chief of the local police department, rang our doorbell and asked if he could come over for a little chat. I had no objections, and we sat down at the kitchen table. He asked me if I had been hunting, and I told him the truth, that I had been home with the baby all morning because Caroline had taken our car for a shopping trip with her friend Melanie Linden. Then I told the truth again, that hunting was not my passion, and I had never owned any guns, nor had any plans to buy one. He said he got the wrong information, but we could go hunting together from time to time, if I was interested. After a short conversation with Caroline and Alice, he left. It was obvious that my call to Michael Gilman scared the hell out of him and caused him to call the police. Dan was smart enough to do a discreet test instead of sending all the cavalry. Caroline continued to grumble about why I told Tom about Melanie's one-time crush on Anders Janten. I told her, "You ignored my warning about your date with Michael Gilman, even though you knew it would end our relationship. The only thing I can say is, thank you so much for all the good times we had together during our 9 years, and I'm sorry you ended it in such a messy way. You can live in the spare room until you find your own apartment somewhere and feel free to sleep with that Bunny Gilman as much as you want, but not in this house." She didn't expect this from me. She started crying and rushed into the bedroom. After a while, when she calmed down a little, she returned and sobbed, "You can't do this to me. Please believe me, because the truth is that I have never had sex with him or anyone else other than you since we met. You are overreacting for no reason at all. I'm sorry, Caroline, but I can't marry or live with a woman I can't trust. You lied to me about going shopping with Melanie and immediately followed Michael Gilman in my car after I warned you of the consequences. Both Melanie and Tom admitted that you met him today. Why the hell do you keep lying to me about this?" Still sobbing, she replied, "Please believe me, Michael is just a friend, and yes, I met him today, but I never had sex with him. That's for sure. Maybe it wasn't, but only because I put an end to 2 of your attempts. That's all. Going to the show with him was too weird to be a serious attempt, but today you had everything planned much better. Your minor mistakes convinced me that shopping was not your intention for the day. But the old saying goes, it will work out on the 3rd try. So now is the time to walk away from our relationship before you have any chance of making it happen. Please don't do this to me. I have never cheated on you, and I promise to be your faithful wife if you give me a chance to show it," Caroline said. "I regretted several times that we didn't break up when you were going to go to that damn show and spend the night in a hotel with Michael Gilman. You used my temporary lack of money as an excuse to go with him, and you wanted to do it for economic reasons. If you wanted to do this, You could afford to pay for this trip for at least 100 people without any problems. But you refused to help the man you claim to want to marry, even though he begged you to help him solve his temporary problem. I gave you a second chance, although your intentions of going on the show with Michael hurt, but today's mess with him was the last straw. I'm probably not even Alice's father. I am ashamed and sorry for my actions while you were unemployed, and I never complained that you refused to go on this show. You have been my only love since we met, and of course, Alice is your daughter. A woman who loves her boyfriend and fiancé would never lie to him and book a hotel date with a jerk like Michael Gilman. You did this behind my back. What about our wedding? Don't you care about what we agreed on? I've already booked a lot of things, she exclaimed. Michael Gilman will probably be left by his wife, so you might as well marry him instead of me. Caroline ruined our grand wedding plans that we had planned for our 10-year anniversary. She has already booked a church, a Rolls-Royce, and a very popular hotel for her reception. It was one of the worst days of my life, and I felt like a pile of crap. My decision was made, and there would be no third chance. My breakup with Caroline was irrevocable, and nothing could stop it. Thus ended the only happy family relationship in my life. I will never deny that it was like hell. Caroline was a beautiful girl with many good qualities, and that is why I will miss her dearly. But I could not accept her attempts to deceive. I knew that a lot of people would think I was a yerk for not forgiving Caroline for her unsuccessful, naive attempts with Michael Gilman. But I already forgave her once for wanting to go on a weekend trip with Michael. A few days later, Caroline admitted what she did with Michael Gilman, and I was right about him. He worked hard on her and sent her a large bouquet of roses at work with a card asking her forgiveness if his interest in the weekend trip caused her any problems. A week after that, he invited her to dinner. After that, they had lunch together once or twice a week. Of course, the dinners started out as innocent meetings with pleasant small talk, but their feelings for each other gradually developed into some kind of sexual desire that they could not deny and did not want to stop. One of the problems was Michael's revoked driver's license, which is why Caroline had to take the car. Michael booked a room at a small hotel he had used before. Caroline said she started to regret it all at our door when I warned her that the wedding would be canceled if she dated Michael Gilman. She told him that I suspected her of cheating on him and wanted to cancel everything, but Michael, who had already paid for the room, convinced her to continue. She did just that. The room was not yet ready when they arrived at the hotel, so they went to a cafe where they received a call from a concerned Melanie, who suggested that she cancel the meeting. When Caroline called me and I asked her to give Melanie the phone, she began to fear the worst. And when she called Melanie to call me back, Melanie shouted at her, "Skip the damn date and go home before it's too late." She wanted to do it, but Michael refused to go, so they started arguing until Melanie called again and told her that I had found out exactly what she was doing. An angry Michael began to realize that all his plans for sex were falling apart. Now even Caroline had lost her temper and told him that she was damn sorry for agreeing to this damn date, with the high risk of canceling her wedding and breaking up her family relationship. Then a completely crazy Melanie called again and screamed that I had ruined her marriage. My last call asking whether Alice was an illegitimate child caused Caroline to scream in despair and run for the car. Then there was a call to Michael warning that I was hunting him with a shotgun. This call scared him, and he didn't dare go home with Caroline in her car, so he took a taxi. A crying Caroline said that she would never for the rest of her life understand why she didn't stop her stupid date when she could still save her wedding and future with me and Alice. Then shit really hit me when I got the DNA test results that said A and B weren't related, but A and C were. In other words, Caroline is Alice's mother, but I am not her father. I decided it was best to contact a lawyer before discussing this with Caroline. Now, with nowhere to go, Caroline chose to confess to me at home, rather than in court, about how she got pregnant and who did it. She didn't take the pills. We did everything we could to get her pregnant. At that time, she was at a conference, and after a fun party, she spent the night with Nicholas Albertson, a handsome married man, father of 3 children. Neither Caroline nor I ever suspected that I was not Alice's father. My lawyer began a long legal process to force Nicholas Albertson to return my money and take over the payments until Alice turned 18 or 25 if she graduated. Joint custody of Alice was out of the question, but Caroline and I agreed that Alice could see me as much as she wanted and would keep her own room in my house. I wasn't her real father, but I was the only father she knew, and I would always be there for her. It's not Alice's fault that her mother is a fallen woman. Tom took Melanie's betrayal with resentment, very hard indeed. After Melanie's confession, he went straight to Anders Janten and beat the crap out of him, sending him to the hospital for a week. Because Tom's revenge was witnessed by Jane's wife and his 2 children, Tom did not escape several months in prison. Caroline received a new nickname, the Divorce Queen, because her failed attempts to cheat on me with Michael Gilman resulted in 5 divorces, which, at least in our city, was a record. Separated, Melanie and Tom, Nicholas Albertson, Alice's father, and his wife, Melanie's lover Anders Janten, and his wife, Michael Gilman, and his wife, and, of course, Caroline and me. I imagine this will be a difficult time for everyone involved, although time will probably heal the wounds sooner or later. After all, we're not alone in having this experience these days. Nearly half the population has gone through divorce. There were no winners in my family except 3 losers, and I deeply regretted the problems we caused for Alice. Alice continued to spend more time with me in her old house than in Caroline's new apartment. She paid a heavy price for what? Her old house than in Caroline's new apartment. She paid a heavy price for what Caroline did. From what I was told, Caroline hoped that I would forgive her and take her back. I didn't feel very good about myself after all the crap I had been involved in such a short time. Losing my job, economic problems, Caroline trying to cheat, breaking up with her, and worst of all, having it thrown in my face that I was not my daughter's father. Although I have received several invitations from interested women, I have not met anyone yet, perhaps because I am still mourning my lost family, and this is hurting me like hell. After a lot of thinking, I can't understand how Caroline could be so eager to date a fucking dog like Michael Gilman. That she, even after my serious warnings, did not hesitate to take a risk and abandon our wedding and everything we had together. One of the strange mysteries in this sad story is that now that both Caroline and Michael are free and living on their own, they have lost all interest in each other and are not dating at all. The only thing I'm sure of is that although Caroline Stillman is a wonderful girl, she will never be my wife. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.